What's up guys, Aaron here, back with another video. Today's video is the full review of the Apple iPhone X. Welcome back, and I recommend grabbing some popcorn and something to drink as this is going to be a long one. Now with that being said, as with any product, there's things I do and don't like about the iPhone X, so let's first talk about the things I don't like, then we'll talk about the things that I do like. And just for informational purposes, I picked up the iPhone X on launch day, and I've been using it for over a week as my daily driver. As you know, this is the first time Apple has completely redesigned the iPhone, and they did it just in time to celebrate their 10th anniversary of the release of the original iPhone. The iPhone X introduces a 5.8-inch AMOLED edge-to-edge HDR display with the removal of the home button along with the addition of wireless charging. Also implemented is a stainless steel frame and all-glass body, and is definitely the best looking iPhone Apple has ever made. The iPhone X weighs 174 grams. It also feels like the perfect size when holding it, which feels like it's in between the size of the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus. It's definitely a fingerprint magnet, and I do recommend a case. Link to the case I'm currently using will be in the video description. And if you're not the type to use a case, then I do recommend getting Apple Care. So first off, let's talk about the things that I don't like. So the first thing I don't like is the price. The iPhone X costs $999 for the 64GB model and $1,149 for the 256GB model. Now I understand that Apple has added some awesome tech to the iPhone X, such as the dot projection system for Face ID, the Super Retina HD display that's coupled with the True Tone display, and Apple's also included an incredibly powerful A11 Bionic chip with a 64-bit architecture, a neural engine, and embedded M11 motion coprocessor. They've also added optical image stabilization on both lenses. They've also added 4K video recording at 60 frames per second and Bluetooth 5.0. Now I'm sure all these extra things do cost Apple more money to implement. However, in the grand scheme of things, the 64GB iPhone X actually only costs $370 to make, which means Apple's more than tripling their money on every 64GB model that they sell. Now I'm not against Apple making money, but I think a minimum $1,000 price tag for the 64GB iPhone X is way too high. The next thing that I don't like is there's only two color options available. The iPhone X is only available in space gray or silver. While both color options look very nice, I would have liked to see a gold version, and even better, I'd like to see a product red iPhone X available at launch. Original leaks of the iPhone X suggested a blush gold version, which looked okay, but appeared to be a combination of both gold and rose gold. I would have liked to see all previous color options available, all with a black front, including gold and rose gold. Now let me know in the comments section below which color option you would have liked to have seen Apple create. The next thing that I don't like is the battery life. Now I'm coming from an iPhone 8 Plus, which has excellent battery life, and I can definitely tell the difference. The iPhone X has a 2,715 mAh battery, which is actually larger than the 2,691 mAh battery in the iPhone 8 Plus, and also has 3 gigs of RAM like the 8 Plus. The reason the iPhone X's battery life is worse is because of the constantly on dot projection for Face ID and having to power the 5.8-inch OLED HDR display that supports a resolution of 2436 by 1125. The iPhone X also has a 625 nit display, also featuring True Tone. Now there are ways to extend the battery life by doing such things as lowering the brightness to as low as possible, and also by using such things as an all-black wallpaper, allowing the iPhone X not to have to illuminate those particular pixels when the display is turned on. However, I like using very colorful and vibrant screensavers, and also like using the device with maximum screen brightness. And I'm personally getting around 6 to 7 hours of screen on time. The next thing that I don't like is that Apple completely removed the home button, which removed Touch ID. I think they could have implemented it on the back of the device or even on the elongated power button. Face ID has been proven to be slower than Touch ID, with Face ID requiring the extra step of having to swipe up after the device is unlocked with your face. I've also had several issues with Face ID. The biggest issue is that the device hasn't unlocked once for me while wearing my sunglasses. Now the reason for the sunglasses not working is because they're polarized, which means they have an added layer of protection that blocks out harmful UV rays. I've also noticed that sunglasses with reflective lenses don't work. The fix for this is to head into settings and to turn off require attention for Face ID, and what that does is it stops the device from focusing heavily on mapping the eyes and concentrates more on your facial bone structure, which has worked for me, but you have to lower your phone's security by toggling it off, require attention to detail, which I'm not 100% comfortable with, but for now it's the only fix. So at the end of the day, I would have liked to see Apple implement Touch ID on the back or on the elongated home button. Now, Tim Cook has stated in an interview that Apple didn't even attempt to add a Touch ID under the display on the back or on the power button. He also stated that Face ID will not work properly if your sunglasses have a 940 nanometer wavelength due to blocking of infrared rays. Now, the infrared sensor is the main tech implemented in the dot projection system. I feel like Apple rushed the implementation of Face ID, and my thoughts were backed up by Apple when they stated that the iPhone X was scheduled for release in 2018, but was bumped up to 2017 to coincide with their 10th anniversary. The only issues I've ever had with Touch ID was if my fingers were wet, sweaty, or dirty. Other than that, Touch ID worked great, and I'd like to see the next iPhone feature both Face ID and Touch ID with the option to use one or the other as the main unlocking mechanism. I would also have liked to see the ability to add more than one face. The next thing I don't like is the notch at the top of the display. Having the notch present on the device isn't the end of the world, however it definitely intrudes on the display, especially while playing games or watching videos. When you're on the home screen or lock screen is when the notch isn't intrusive, and it just holds such things as your carrier, Wi-Fi signal strength, battery life, and LTE signal strength, which makes sense and is again non-intrusive. However, it's when consuming media that it does become intrusive, especially in landscape mode. When in landscape mode, Apple automatically crops the screen, which obviously makes your viewing area smaller and makes the device feel more like an iPhone 7 or iPhone 8, which if that was the case, I would have just got the 7 or 8 and not have to worry about the notch on the screen or cropping. Now, there are ways to remove the notch via software, or should I say via wallpapers, but since they're wallpapers, they only work on the lock and home screen, which obviously isn't a permanent fix. The notch also cuts off the ability to add the actual specific battery life percentage, which you now have to access by swiping down from the top right of the screen through Control Center. Also, about 60 to 75% of apps haven't yet been optimized for the notch, which results in a terrible viewing experience for the customer. The next thing that I don't like is the aspect ratio. The iPhone X supports a 19.5 to 9 aspect ratio rather than the normal 21 by 9, which results in an awkward, long, narrow type screen. Now, this is really noticeable when you take a screenshot and post it on social networks. Now, this isn't a deal breaker, but it's annoying since the screen is technically bigger at 5.8 inches than the iPhone Plus models, which have a 5.5 inch screen, yet the Plus models, which use the correct aspect ratio, have a bigger surface area, which again is weird since the iPhone X has a bigger screen. And the last thing I don't like is how poorly implemented the front-facing portrait selfie mode is. The front-facing camera definitely struggles to properly capture a selfie with high-quality bokeh. The camera struggles to capture the tips of your ears and also the edges of your hair, especially if you have long, messy hair. Now, this is a software issue rather than a physical camera issue, which means it can be fixed via a software update. Now that we've talked about the things that I don't like about the iPhone X, let's talk about the things that I do like. So the first thing that I like is the display. The iPhone X has a 5.8-inch OLED HDR Super Retina display with a resolution of 2436 by 1125, which comes out to 458 ppi. The display also features a very nice True Tone display, a brightness level of 625 nits, and also features 3D touch. The display is absolutely beautiful, taking a page out of the Apple Watch's display by implementing a high-quality OLED display made by Samsung. With the addition of the OLED display, we get more richer blacks, and the screen looks excellent even in direct sunlight. Everything looks noticeably sharper than even the iPhone 8 or 8 Plus. The next thing I like is the speakers. Apple has implemented a front-firing speaker in the earpiece, along with the original speaker that comes at the bottom, allowing for stereo sound, which sounds great especially when playing games or watching movies, and of course for listening to music. The sound quality is noticeably better than even the 8 or 8 Plus, sounding both louder and cleaner. The next thing that I like is the iPhone X's processor. The iPhone X has Apple's new A11 Bionic chip with a 64-bit architecture with a neural engine and embedded M11 Motion coprocessor. Apple really went far and beyond with this processor, and the speed test and benchmarks show it, with the device scoring 57.49 megabytes per second on the single-core score speed test and 13.51 megabytes per second on the multi-score. The Geekbench scores were also impressive with a single-core score of 4,166 and a multi-core score of 10,127. Now this actually comes near and slightly exceeds some low-end MacBooks. The processor was able to handle any game that I threw at it, and I never seen a stutter or hiccup during any heavy and taxing tasks that were performed. The operating system is optimized for iOS 11, however there are several bugs present that still need to be worked out. The next thing I like is the implementation of wireless charging. The iPhone X has a new all-glass design helping to usher in wireless charging, which works great. Apple has recently announced that in the upcoming iOS 11.2 update, they're going to be implementing faster wireless charging speeds up to 7.5 watts. I'm currently using the Chotec 10-watt wireless charger, which comes with a built-in fan and works excellent. Link for this wireless charger will be in the video description. The next thing I like is the rear dual vertical camera system. The cameras on both the front and back of the iPhone X are superior to any previous cameras in an iPhone. Apple added optical image stabilization to both lenses, resulting in stunning video stability and also superior low-light images. The portrait mode on the rear camera is amazing, however that's one spot that the front-facing camera suffers. The dual vertical camera system is 12 megapixels with both a wide-angle lens and a telephoto lens. The wide-angle lens features a f1.8 aperture with optical image stabilization, and the telephoto lens features a f2.4 aperture with optical image stabilization as well. The camera features a 6-element lens with a sapphire crystal lens cover to help with durability. The rear cameras are capable of capturing 4K video at 2430 or even 60 frames per second and can capture slow motion at 120 or 240 frames per second at 1080p. The iPhone X also captures video with a new codec, HEVC, which saves at a smaller file size to help with storage. You can also take 8 megapixel still photos while recording 4K video, and the front-facing camera is a 7 megapixel shooter with portrait mode, which again needs some improvement. The front-facing camera can capture 1080p HD video with retina flash and features a f2.2 aperture with body and face detection with auto HDR and a new feature called Animoji. The Animoji feature lets you create animated emojis that react and mimic your facial expressions, and it does a pretty good job of doing it. And Animojis are exclusive to the iPhone X. The next thing I like is the extra security the iPhone X has when it comes to notifications and messages on the lock screen. By default, the iPhone X only lets you know you have a message, but it doesn't display the message until access is granted to the device via Face ID. Now, this feature, along with Tap to Wake and Raise to Wake, are little features that I really like. The next thing I like is all the new gestures that the iPhone X has. All the new gestures and added functionality implemented on the iPhone X really make the iPhone feel like a new iPhone, rather than just an updated version of the old model. To access Control Center, you now have to swipe down from the top right, and to access notifications, you need to swipe down from the top left. And while in an app, you can swipe up from the bottom of the screen to return to the home screen. And a small swipe from the bottom of the display and a small push to the right allows you to access your recently used apps and also to multitask or force close apps. Now with the removal of the home button, everything is switched, such as now to access Siri, you have to hold down the power button, or what Apple now calls the side button. To take a screenshot, you have to hold the side button and the volume up button, and to turn off the device, you now have to press and hold the side button and volume up button. Switching between apps is now faster since you don't have to go back to the home screen first. Just swipe left or right on the bottom of the screen while you're in an app. Now probably the most awkward new gesture is how you force restart the device, which the process is to press and release the volume up button, press and release the volume down button, and lastly press and hold the side button until the device powers off, then reboots showing the Apple logo. Reachability is still available via the native swipe down gesture and needs to be turned on first in settings. To enable it, go to Settings, General, Accessibility, and turn on Reachability. Once you access Reachability, to return to full screen, you swipe up from the white gesture bar on the bottom of the screen. I also like that the iPhone X notices your face when an incoming call comes in and automatically lowers the volume, which by the way, the device has a new default ringtone called Reflection. The iPhone X is also IP67 water resistant. A lot of people have been asking me if I know why the iPhone X switched the dual camera system from horizontal to vertical, and Apple actually made a statement about this, saying the camera is now vertical because the previous horizontal camera setup interfered with the sensors in the notch. And lastly, my final thoughts. The iPhone X is an excellent device. The camera is one of the best, if not the best camera on a smartphone. The construction of the device is great. I absolutely love the new form factor. I just wish the screen had a wider aspect ratio like the Plus models. I would also like to see the price lower and the notch removed. I love the all-glass body and wireless charging, and the DxO mark is amazing for the iPhone X, and actually ranked the highest out of any smartphone. The stainless steel frame also looks great, and a glass design is perfect for the iPhone X. Now, Face ID works great as long as you disable the advanced security settings to work with sunglasses. The speakers are very clean and clear even at max volume. iOS 11 has some bugs that need to be fixed, however Apple will be fixing them in future updates. And emojis are pretty cool. The price point is pretty high, especially for only the 64GB version. However, in the end, I think the iPhone X is worth the money. It's the best iPhone ever released, and if you're interested in a more traditional iPhone, then I recommend the iPhone 8 or 8 Plus. However, if you're ready for something new, I definitely recommend the iPhone X. I've made over 20 videos on the iPhone X covering everything from cases to wireless chargers to how to add a home button and remove the notch. Those videos will be linked down below. I'll also be giving away a 64GB iPhone X very soon on the channel, so make sure you're subscribed here on YouTube and turn notifications on. Also, make sure you're following me on Twitter and turn notifications on there as well. Be sure to drop a like rating down below and subscribe to the channel to be notified of future content. I'd like to thank you guys for watching. As I mentioned earlier, my name is Aaron, and I'll see you guys on the next one.